Hi guys, going to go through this page on vertical line charts. This is page 7 of the Data 1F pack. Okay, so vertical line charts are used to display discrete data. And remember, discrete data is data which has to take a certain value. Okay, so we can only have a whole number of goals scored. We can't have 0.5 goals scored, for example. Okay, so they're just like bar charts in that they have to be separated, they can't be touching. In fact, they're exactly like bar charts. The only difference is they're just a line rather than a bar. So they're actually much easier to draw as well. And there's less chance of you getting them confused with the other type of chart, which we'll see later on. So this first question, the line chart shows the number of goals scored by a football team in their last 16 games. And it wants us to fill in the frequency table. So how many times, how frequent were 0 goals scored? Well, you see there, that happened twice. 1 goal was scored 5 times, 2 goals was scored 4 times, 3 goals was scored 3 times, and 4 goals was scored twice. How many goals did they score altogether? The temptation is to just add these up, and this you might think that because it says number of goals scored, but these were just the options really. If we need to think about how often it happened, so if twice 0 goals were scored, how many goals is that? Well, that's 0, isn't it? If 5 times 1 goal was scored, then that's going to be 5 goals altogether. If 2 goals were scored 4 times, then that's 8 goals altogether. And what you probably notice we're doing is timesing these numbers together to give the total number of goals scored. So if 3 goals were scored 3 times, then altogether that's 9 goals contributed by those games. And finally, if 4 goals were scored twice, then that's another 8 goals. So altogether, the number of goals scored is what we get when we add these up. So 5, 13, 22, 30 goals scored altogether. Okay. What was the median number of goals scored? So the middle number. Now these are already in order in a table. We could write out this data in a list, but it's in a table for a reason. There's a fair bit of data there. So if I was to write it out, I'd have to say 0, 0, because that happened twice, then 5 ones. Okay, you can see why it's in a table. There's plenty of data there. So I want to avoid using that method really. I'll do it anyway just to show you that the median is given by this way of doing it. 2 goals happen 4 times, 3 goals happen 3 times, and 4 goals happen twice. So crossing off from either side, oops. You can see that we're left with 2 numbers in the middle, and between those would also be a 2. So the median number of goals scored was 2. Was there a quicker way to find that though? Yes is the answer. 16 games there were there, and there's 16 numbers down there at the bottom. If I want to find the middle game, then you might be tempted to say it's the 8th one, but actually it's between the 8th and the 9th, which we can see here. This is the 8th bit of data, this is the 9th bit of data. So the median is between the 8th and the 9th. We just need to find which row in the table that is in. So is the 8th bit of data in here? Well, no, because we've only got 2 bits of data that we've seen so far, 2 matches if you like. If we include the next set of matches, how many bits of data have we seen altogether? Well, we've seen 7 games altogether if we include those, just keeping a little running total. So is the 8th game a game where 1 goal was scored? No. If we include the next 4 though in our running total, we're now up to 11 games played altogether, and we're past the 8th game, so the 8th and the 9th game must be in this row, and therefore 2 goals were scored in those games, so the median would be 2 as well. Okay, so we use this little running total, or the actual name for it is cumulative frequency, to help us find where the median is. What was the mean number of goals scored? Okay, well, again, tempting just to add these up, to find the total number of goals scored, but we've seen from part B that the total number of goals scored was found by timesing and then adding the results up. So 30 goals scored altogether. And the other temptation, which gets a lot of students, is to then divide by the number of rows in the table for some reason. And that is not how you find the answer. There are 5 rows in that table. If we were to divide that by 5, we would get a mean number of goals as 6. 6 would be the answer. Well, in no games were 6 goals scored, so 6 cannot be an average. The maximum number of goals scored was 4. Remember, our averages need to be between the minimum and the maximum. So don't divide by the number of rows, don't make that mistake. What we actually need to divide by is the number of games there were altogether. It tells us that in the question, but even if it didn't tell us that in the question, we could just add up the number of matches. Okay, so we could add up the frequencies, and we'd get 16. So 30 divided by 16 is what we're going to do. And 1 decimal place, so 1.9 is what that would round to. Okay. Moving on. Number 2. We've got another line chart. How many? So this is about the test scores of pupils in class 10A. And I'd encourage you to do what I just didn't do. Read the question, read what the context of it is about. So test scores. How many pupils sat the test in class 10A? Okay, well, this is about counting up the frequencies. One person got a score of 2 out of 10. So that's one person. So I'm just going to make a little note of this. No, actually, I'll make it to the left of each bar. 2 people got a score of 3. So these are just the frequencies I'm just reading off here. So just going across and reading 3 people there. 3 people in got a score of 5. 5 people got a score of 6. 6 people got a score of 7. 7 people got a score of 8. 3 people got a score of 9, and 1 person got a score of 10. So if I was to add all those numbers together, that's 3, 6, 9, 14, 20, 27, 30, 31. 31 people altogether. Which sounds about right for a class, doesn't it? It's a class, and that's about the sort of number of people you get in a class usually. What's the modal test score? Loads of people get confused when they see this word modal because they're used to the word mode. Replace either of them. If you see either of them, just replace it with the words most common. And I swear you will make fewer mistakes on these sorts of questions. What was the most common test score? Well, 8 was scored the most often. 7 people got it, but the most common test score was 8. What was the median test score? So we need to find the middle person. There are 31 people. Now, that's pretty close to 30. If I halve 30, I would get 15. However, if you think about 2 groups of 15 people, that would, between them, you know, we've only got to 30 people, not 31. So if we think about it, the middle person is going to be the 16th person. If you think about that 16th person, they're going to have 15 people to their left, 15 people to their right. They're in the middle. So where is the 16th person? Are they in there? No, because we've only got 1 person. If we include the next 2 people, how many people have we seen? Well, we've seen 3. I'm going to keep a little running total here. So we've not seen the 16th. If we include the next 3, we're up to 6 people. We've not got to the 15th yet. 16th, sorry. If we include the next 3, we're up to 9. So I'm keeping a little running total. I'm just doing it slightly differently from the previous question. If we include the next 5, we're up to 14. So we're getting close to our 16th person. They must be in this next bar, because when we include the next 6, we've seen 20 people. So the 16th person is in there, and therefore they got a score of 7. So the median is 7. What was the mean test score? Okay, now this is a little bit tricky on here now. We need to work out the total test score. So we need to do similarly to what we did in the previous question, but we add a table to do it there. We need to figure out the total test score. If 1 person got a score of 2, how many points is that, if you like? What total score is that? That's 2. If 2 people got a score of 3, then that's a total score of 6. Okay, so I'm timesing these numbers together. I'm timesing their test score by the frequency. 3 people scored 4, so that's a total score of 12. 3 people scored 5, so that's a total of 15. 5 people scored 6, that's a score of 30. 6 people scored 7, so 42. 7 scored 8, so that's 56. 3 people scored 9, so that's a total score of 27. And 1 person scored 10. Okay, now I need to add these up to find the total score. 2 and 6 and 12 and 15, 30, 42, 56, 27 and 10. Total test score was 200. And I'm going to divide by the number of pupils, and that was 31. We found that in part A. Divide that by 31. Round to 1 decimal place, so that's 6.5 that would round to. Does that make sense as a test score? Yeah. It's within our data. You know, it's towards the higher end, which is what the data would suggest. More people are at this higher end. So yeah, it sounds sensible. Have a go at the last question yourself. Pause the video here, and then when you're ready, unpause and scroll down. Sorry, no, you don't need to scroll down. I'll scroll down.